This presentation will touch on the historical roots of child psychology, as the history is quite vast and interesting. Past views of child psychopathology and how various theories contributed to this evolving and vital field will be shared. I will also integrate Maslow's concept of self-actualization and explain why it is important to apply this concept to a child learning self-regulation of their emotions and behaviors. In the mid-1950s, Abraham Maslow became a key figure and founder of humanistic psychology. In his search to understand human motivation, he founded a pyramid detailing the hierarchy of human needs. According to Maslow, everyone aims to reach the top of his or her pyramid of needs, which is called self-actualization, which means realizing their full potential. And for a child, this is an ongoing practical process of learning that happens every day, where they strive to become the best version of themselves by continuously learning and exploring. Before going into my points supporting how Maslow's self-actualization works to help a child self-regulate, I think it is important to understand a little bit of the history of child psychopathology. Hospitals and mental health facilities tailored specifically to developing children first got their start around the 19th and 20th centuries. Prior to this, it was common for most to disregard the child's mental health and development. A commonly held belief around this time was that mental illness only occurred once the child was fully developed, which was around 25 years of age. Because of this limiting view of children's mental health, deviancy became a common occurrence within society, with adolescents ranging from 13 to 25 years of age. Many children and teens were seen in adult asylums prior to the late 19th and 20th centuries. One could say these economic consequences led to a change of thought, which incorporated a newfound importance placed on families raising the children. How families were raising their children prior led to higher rates of criminal behaviors and deviancy in adulthood within societies. More effort and care were put into their child's overall development after this. How families were raising their children prior led to higher rates of criminal behaviors and deviancy in adulthood within societies. Later mental hygiene movements around the 1920s would set up one of the first child guidance movements, as you will see a photo of on the 5th slide. Shreve 2014 defines humanistic psychology, aka the third force, as the study of what makes a person human. Instead of focusing on quick rewards or what we own, it looks at our long-term values and the process of growing into our best selves. Humanist thinkers criticized the overly scientific or behavioral views of psychology, not because they were against reason, but because they believed another kind of reason, one based on caring and a person's individual experience as being more important. In the late 1950s, Maslow and other humanistic psychologists, their studies led to a more holistic view and approach of human behavior, one in which the psychologist should aim to end suffering. So at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs over here is self-actualization. This is when the self-actualizing person's life is governed by the search for being values, or B values, such as truth, goodness, beauty, wholeness, justice, and meaningfulness. This sounds exactly like what most infants, toddlers, and children naturally do from the time they are born into this world. They learn from those in the world around them, then respond or react to both as they grow and develop into teenagers and then young adults. In self-regulation, just with everything else we teach a child, the parent first must model and equip their child to self-regulate. Using gestures and language is important. However, it is important to note that these other values in the pyramid must be met from the bottom up in order for one to reach self-actualization. So, how does this look with a child who is learning to self-regulate? Well, first, the parent maintains a calm, safe demeanor in the environment, the home environment usually first. Then they use language and gestures to verbalize the steps that they take to process through their emotions and impulses. A good example of this would be as a mom's grocery shopping, she's talking to the child, telling her what they're doing, or even at home with cooking or just doing errands, explaining as she's going along. This would look like the parent physically taking a breath, if they're feeling a certain way, verbalizing, showing how they feel. If they're stressed out, going to a safe spot to process these emotions, as well as paying attention, listening, and understanding how the child feels in these moments. Next, the adult can further teach coping strategies so that a child will feel encouraged to manage their big emotions independently with problem solving. This would look like them giving the child a predictable routine, using praise to reinforce the good behaviors, which can actually help the child to continually practice and use these methods on their own. Self-regulating at home, school, wherever. So a counter-argument could be that self-actualization described within humanistic psychology is subject to critiques. Some critiques could be that it's limited in its scientific measurability due to the reliance on subjective and abstract concepts. There are also concerns that have been raised about potential cultural bias and individualistic emphasis, which clashes with collectivist ideologies. Detractors also point out that the concept can be misinterpreted as promoting selfishness or entitlement rather than fostering authentic personal development. However, in the instance with child self-regulation, I believe Maslow's self-actualization can improve the child's behavior over a span of time with consistency and use from infancy. I don't see where this would be an issue culturally. You could also record the observed positive changes via good response as a smiley, bad response as a frown, no response with a blank on like a chart. The reward for children learning self-regulation in this case would be positive praise towards good behaviors via encouragement when the child uses learned tools effectively. And this actually promotes a child to reach self-actualization. Quote, "The study of self-fulfilling people can teach us much about our own mistakes, our shortcomings, the proper direction in which to grow." Quote, Maslow, 1968-1999. Maslow and his fellow humanistic psychologists have always emphasized the need to not only study individual experience but also learn from positive examples by other people and turn this knowledge into action. To summarize, child development is a new establishment and highly important to the field of psychology. Children coming from all kinds of backgrounds have trouble when it comes to self-regulation. This is something that can be addressed using a more humanistic approach. Maslow's self-actualization should be practiced within the home environment, with the parent and child. Then the child can use what they learn individually at school and within differing environments. Many would try to argue that this method would not work across cultures and that it could not be measured, but I believe this is not the case. Children across cultures learn best from their families of origin, and then they build upon the skills that they have already learned to develop them over time. We could track the positive, negative, and zero responses throughout a span of time on this, and I think we would be impressed with the outcome of Maslow's method. That is not to say that other psychological approaches cannot be applied to this. I think modern-day psychology welcomes a mix of different approaches to address the person as a whole.